Alright everybody, it's here. Our favorite time of the year. It's Ryobi Days 2023. We're going to kind of go over some of the tools that are offered this year. For this particular promo, you get the classic twin pack with the 4 amp-hour batteries with the charger. I think we're going to see the same thing we saw last year with the HP or the HP batteries. You're going to see the 2, the 4, and the 6, or maybe it was the 4 and the 6. I can't remember, but that's going to be $199. You're going to get a free tool as well. I'll do another video on that. But real quick here, we're just going to kind of go through the tools and the price of those tools. And if you want, if you choose to hack them, that's up to you. And if you want to keep the batteries or keep the both or keep just the tool, and I'll kind of break it down for you. All right, starting out, we got the 1/4-inch impact driver. This is brushed, and it's going to be kind of reskinned from years past to kind of modernize it a little bit. They did do away with the magnetic tray, which kind of rubbed some people the wrong way, but I guess I feel like they had to reskin it a little bit, kind of update it and seem a little bit more sophisticated. If you want to return the batteries, this is going to cost you $36 or $37 for 6203 and for the batteries. Next up, we got the 1/2-inch belt sander. Now, they're valuing this at $189 in the menu where you can select your tools. So, but this is, again, if you want the sander, seems to be a bit overpriced in my opinion at $190, but it's good for those of you who want the batteries instead. So you're going to get 2 batteries and a charger for $34. But again, if you want the sander, it's going to bring it down to $65. You can do that option if you wish. Alright, this is a repeat from years past. The 10-inch variable speed random orbit buffer is going to bring it down to $37.35. And the battery is going to come down to $61.65. Again, this is not the cheapest way. So far, the cheapest way to get these batteries is going to be with that sander, or excuse me, the finger sander or the 1/2-inch belt sander. But all right, let's move on to the next one. Excuse me. Right now we got the planer with the dust bag. I got this. I haven't had a chance to use it yet, but I'm really looking forward to doing some projects over the summer when I get some extra time. But anyway, $119 regular price, they're saying. Brings it down to $54.04. And then you got the batteries that come down to $44.96. Again, I'm not sure if I just said this or not, but this is a repeat from years past, especially last year. Alright, and now we've got the 3 3/8-inch multi-material plunge saw. I'm not sure when this came out. I feel like it was fairly recently, but obviously new for this year. $49.50 and $49.50 for the saw and the batteries. Not a bad deal for $99. Not sure I would even return anything with this one. This is a good option for a nice maybe track saw for some sheet stock, obviously, or some some thinner materials. Especially if you can have your own jig set up, to make some nice straight cuts. That Craig jig, they make like a track saw kit, and buying this saw and that kit, you're still coming out better off than if you bought a special purpose track saw type deal. You got the little dust chute out the side. You can hook up a vacuum to that. Not a bad option here if you're interested. Right here we got the 3/8-inch multi-position ratchet. I've seen a lot of mixed reviews on this. I've seen a lot of people sort of knock on it a little bit, but what's interesting and what's unique about this ratchet is that you can rotate the head if you pull up on the collet at the base of the, I guess where the ratchet head goes into the body of the tool, you can pull that collet up and you can position you could rotate that ratchet head around to 4 different positions, so you can basically rotate that around 180 degrees, and you can use it upside down more or less, so the battery sort of stays out of the way if that's an issue that you're having. But $49.50 for the tool, $49.50 for the battery, or the batteries, excuse me. Alright, here we got the 3/8" impact wrench. This is going to be your light duty impact wrench. I think we're looking at about 220 foot-pounds, so some light duty applications, some smaller cars, maybe some very small SUVs, anything bigger than that, we're going to be struggling a little bit. Not really for trucks and things like that. But anyway, this is brushed as well. It's been reskinned and modernized, and I think they did a pretty good job with the reskinning them and making them look a little bit nicer, a little bit more professional, if you will. But even though they're not intended for pro use, not saying that you couldn't use these if you were a pro. But anyway, we're gonna see the tools at $99 be $49.50, and then the batteries be $49.50. I think we're gonna see that common theme. So I may have been askew earlier in the video, but I have seen that in the past where we're trying to do these hacks. The most expensive tool sometimes isn't the best way to get the batteries the cheapest, but that may be the case with this particular promo. Alright, we got our old standby, the 4.5" angle grinder. We see this pretty much year after year. I don't know if they've reskinned this one or respec'd this one or not, but the grips on it still look a little bit more gray than we're used to seeing with some of the newer stuff whose grips are a little bit more, are definitely black. So anyway, but still, haven't heard anything. Obviously the run time's not going to be spectacular with this grinder, but for small jobs here and there, especially if you're hacking this, $37 for a nice angle grinder is not bad. Brings the batteries down to 61, 65. So again, we've got a tool here that's retail for the promo anyway, $60. So obviously it's not going to bring the price of the batteries down even more. It's going to be higher, but this is a good chance to get some of these cheaper tools, really cheap, if you need a backup or something like that. So an extra one to have on hand. Maybe you got a grinding wheel or a cutting wheel, and then you got like a flap disc or something. You don't have to keep changing discs. You can just have one dedicated for maybe cutting, another one for sanding, or material removal, I should say. Alright, next up is the 5.5" circular saw. This one has been reskinned a little bit. The cushion parts are definitely a little bit more, they're definitely black, not gray. And it's brushed, of course. Not a bad price, $40 for a circular saw. Not everybody necessarily needs a 7 1/4 or even 6 1/2. 5 1/2 is good enough a lot of times for 2x lumber. You get enough blade depth to be able to cut through that, as long as you're making straight cuts. I would not advise making any sort of miters with this, because I don't know if you're going to get enough blade depth to really do any sort of miters, especially with 2x lumber. But anyway, if you're doing like 45s, you might be pushing it. But anyway, $58.34 for the batteries, $40 for the circ saw. Alright, this is definitely a newer sander to the market. It's definitely been polished and renewed a little bit. $36.97 for the brushed sander. It looks like you're getting a nice little dust bag with that, and I'm sure that you can get an attachment and put it on there to use it with a with a dust collector, a little wet dry vac, shop vac, if you will. Brings the batteries down to 6203. Again, this is another tool that, again, you're not buying this for the batteries necessarily. Sort of buying this to get the tool itself, relatively inexpensive. $37 for a 5-inch random orbit sander, definitely not a bad price. All right, now we got the compact fixed base router. Again, this is a $99 tool, so it's going to be $49.50 for the tool, $49.50 for the batteries. This is the updated version here. You've got which the major update here, obviously, it's been reskinned a little bit, and it has a variable speed dial for the business end, if you will, and kind of makes it a little more versatile. All right, now we got the new flexible LED clamp light. All these clamp tools, pretty neat. You can pretty much clamp them to tables, lumber, pretty much anything. You can have light anywhere you need it. You can just stick it right on the battery and use the battery as a base, and you can kind of move this around. You can clamp this above your head for some overhead lighting, down where you need it. Again, this is another one that's going to be one of the cheaper tools here that you can kind of get, really cheap. But the cheaper the MSRP of the tool gets, the less money you're going to see off of that particular tool. With this one, you're seeing, an $11 savings. It might be one of those ones to think about just buying outright, on its own bare tool, as opposed to getting it with the batteries. It's really not that expensive if that's what you're really needing. Brings the batteries down to 7053. For some reason they kind of switched out of order on me for some reason, but this is the new as of last year, the hybrid Whisper series fan. One of my favorite fans. I end up buying 2 of them. Really puts out a lot more air than the clamp fans, which I still am a big fan of. If you're outside or if you're anywhere where there's a breeze, unless you have those smaller clamp fans right in front of you, you're not really feeling the air too much. This one really throws some air without being annoyingly loud to where you can't have a conversation with somebody, and you don't even need to turn it on 3. I find 2 to be pretty adequate for most situations. I have one mounted on the wall of my garage above the workbench, just so I can get some airflow, and not be miserable while I'm trying to do something in the garage when it's hot out. But anyway, great price here, $36.97. And I really like that they kept where you can use an extension cord with this, and you can plug it directly into the back at the base where the battery is, as usual. You don't have to have any separate adapters, which I really think they made a mistake with that air cannon that they came out with, the new version. I'm not sure about the 40-volt version they're coming out with, but the new 18-volt version for sure, I think they made a mistake where you have to have that adapter to use a extension cord with it, or to plug it directly into the wall. You have to go through and use that adapter. It's just something else to keep up with, something else that you're going to lose. And with this, you don't have to worry about taking anything extra other than an extension cord, and which is really, I think, is really great, and really think something that they should take another look at with these with the air cannons. All right, now I put it back around on me where it's supposed to be, and we got the brushed jigsaw. Again, this is going to be reskinned. I believe you got different speeds, and you got 1, 2, and 3. Let's take a look at it real quick. It looks like you got different speeds. I think I might have this one. I think I might have got the HP version. Yeah, you got 4 orbital settings to match power and application. You got a non-marring sole. You got the work light. One thing I believe that they did away with on this version, the new brushed version and the HP version, was that you had a blower port that I really loved, especially if you're using a finer tooth blade where you're trying to make some real delicate fine cuts. You build up a lot of dust, and sometimes it's hard to see the cutting line or where you're cutting. And I'm really sad that they did away with that blower port on the jigsaw. It's not on the HP version, and it doesn't appear to be on this version, which I really think was a misstep. But that is still going to bring the price of the jigsaw down to $40.66. Not a bad price. And then $58.34 for the batteries. All right, now we got the multi tool. This is probably one of the most ergonomic, right up next to the DeWalt multi-tool. Ergonomic wise, probably one of the best feeling multi-tools you can use. You know, it's really nice and contoured. It fits well in your hand. A lot of the other multi-tools, especially the Milwaukee ones, it's just like holding a big cylinder. Not really ergonomic. It's still relatively comfortable, but that's going to bring the price $43.94 and then $55.06 for the batteries, respectively. All right, here we got the power scrubber, $40.66 and $58.34 for the batteries. I've heard a lot of mixed things about these. In my opinion, I think you're probably better off using a drill, you know, especially a cheap one. And that way, if you get it wet or it dies, it's not the end of the world. I just don't think you're going to have the power with this. I think you're better off using a drill with like a scrub brush, you know, that you can get off Amazon or eBay. And with the different attachments, the different bristles, the pads, stuff you can use for like sanding, polishing, you know, scrubbing. You get soft bristles, you know, really coarse, hard bristles. I also heard a lot about these heads stripping out and kind of being useless. I just don't think you're going to have the power. You know, obviously this one's made to be exposed to water, and they got the watertight battery compartment, relatively watertight anyway. I don't know that you can submerge this necessarily, but it protects the battery, and I think everything's sealed up around the head and the shaft area. You know, which is a plus. But again, I just don't think you're going to have the power that you're going to have if you use a drill. And I think you're probably better off, you know, kind of going that way. All right, here we got the precision rotary tool. Comes with a couple of attachments. You know, really nice for detail work. You can clamp the green top on top of the battery and use it as your little base of operations. You know, it's not for major material removal or some heavy duty jobs. Again, this is for some light detail work. You know, $33.21 for the tool, $65.79 for the batteries. All right, here we got the brushed recip. Again, this has been reskinned as well. It looks a little more sleek and modern. $43.94 and $55.06 for the tool and batteries, respectively. You know, good little workhorse. I know a lot of people who have this. It just keeps chugging along. It takes a hit and keeps on kicking. All right, now we got what's now up. We have what's kind of been taken over Facebook and wherever else by storm. You know, this is the Verse clamp speakers. $49.50 for the pair, and then of course $49.50 for the batteries. Here's my thoughts on this. It's a great novelty item, a great expansion to the clamp system that they have going for them. You know, between the fan, the battery, the fan, the light. They've got that light, the work light, the flexible head work light that we talked about a minute ago, and like the panel light, like these have, but instead of a speaker, obviously that's a work light. I'm not sure what else they're coming out with, and I probably missed something else. Oh, I guess you could sort of classify the rotary tool we talked about as part of this system, even though it doesn't have a clamp. Anyway, I kind of got mixed feelings about this particular speaker system. You know, it kind of reminds me of the speaker that you clamp on top of the battery, and it's just a speaker, and that's pretty much it. But I think that might be better than this. You've only got one speaker here. You know, it's tiny. You know, I just can't imagine getting a full rich sound out of something like this. And you know, when you say you compare all those together, And really, you're just increasing the volume of the sound. You're not necessarily getting any better quality sound like you would from a dedicated like Bluetooth speaker. I just think you're probably better off going with something like that as opposed to this. And like Anchor, the Soundcore Motion Boom, that has, and I can do a video on the one that I have, but it's waterproof. You can completely submerge it underwater. It's got 24-hour playtime. It's got USB-C charging. You can also use it as a charger. It's got, you got true stereo sound with radiators and titanium drivers, and you can connect more than one of those together for true wireless stereo sound. These, you're getting just mono sound. It's one speaker. Your highs, mids, and lows are all coming out of that one. Again, it's great for the novelty item. Great for somebody who's just got to have whatever Ryobi comes out with. And they know. And that's why they come out with this kind of stuff. Not saying that it's terrible quality, but I just, for what they're charging for the speakers, I just don't think you're getting the value for that money. And I think it can better be spent elsewhere on a much better quality product with much better sound, deeper sound, that's loud enough for the whole job site without having to string up 1,000 speakers everywhere to just increase the volume of the sound. But that's enough browbeating about those. Let's go on to the next tool. Alright, next up we've got the holdover from years past, the hybrid LED work light. Again, this is great. You can use a battery with it, or you can use an extension cord with it, and it works great. Price is $46.87 for the tool, $42.13 for the batteries. Don't really have much else to say about the light. It's a work light. And then I think the last option here really is just another set of 4 amp hour batteries. Let's double check. Just trying to go through them. I was chopping the video up so you don't have to sit here and wait for the screen to keep changing. But yeah, the last option is the batteries. So again, you're paying $100 for 4 amp hour batteries and a charger. I don't know if these come with a bag or not, these batteries. But either way, the batteries with the charger, I don't know if they come with a bag or not. But either way, 4 batteries for $100 and a charger, definitely not a bad deal. And it brings the batteries down to $49.50 each. Again, if you want just the batteries, the best way is to use the belt sander. I think there might be a mistake on that price. That should not be a $190 tool. That should be a $99 tool. But I just don't see what they're coming up with. Nearly $200. That's not for a brushed belt sander. Is just kind of nutty, in my opinion. Especially when you consider these other tools. Didn't make a whole lot of sense. But anyway, it's neither here nor there. I'll put this video up. I'll put a link to the main page where you can kind of select whatever tools you want, and you can proceed however you like. And stick around. I'm going to be doing a video for the next for the HP batteries as well.